In this example, we want to be able to compute the mean from a frequency distribution. The frequency distribution in the table below represents the avatar flight of passage wait times in minutes, and we want to approximate the mean. So in this case here, what we have is a frequency distribution. So for the classes between 70 and 89, we have 4 values that are in between there. Between 90 and 109, there's 7. Between 110 and 129, there's 6. 130 to 149, there's 6. 150 to 169, there's 18. 170 to 189 is 5. 190 to 209 is 1. And 210 to 229 is 3. So this is a little different than just computing the mean because this is a frequency distribution. So we don't have all the specific data. We just know that there's 4 numbers that fall within this class. So it's a little different on how we're supposed to compute the mean. So the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to find the class midpoint. Well, the class midpoint is taking the lower class limit and the upper class limit, adding them, and then dividing it by 2. So if we take 70 plus 89 and divide it by 2, that gives us 79.5. Likewise, if we take 90 and add 109 and then divide that by 2. So 90 plus 109 divided by 2 gives us 99.5. Okay, likewise, we're going to take 110, add 129, and then divide that by 2. Well, if we take 110 plus 129 divided by 2, we get 119.5. Now you should notice the difference in the class midpoints. What is the difference between 79.5 and 99.5? Well, the answer is 20. What's the difference between 119.5 and 99.5? Well, the difference is 20. Well, if you notice, that is what the class width is. From 70 to 90 is 20. From 90 to 110 is 20. 110 to 130 is 20. So basically, we can just add 20 to each value, or add 130 plus 149 divided by 2, which gives us 139.5. If we add 20 to that, we get 159.5. If we add 20 to that, we get 179.5. If we add 20 to that, we get 199.5. And if we add 20 to that, we get 219.5. Okay, so now what we've done is we found the class midpoints for each particular class. Now, one thing we should do is we want to find the total of the frequency. So we want to be able to add 4 plus 7 plus 6 plus 6 plus 18 plus 5 plus 1 and plus 3. So that means we want to find the sum, because this is the sum of the frequency. When we add all those numbers together, we get a total of 50. So we found the total frequency, and now we find the midpoint of each particular class. Now what we want to do is we want to take the frequency and then multiply it by the class midpoint. So for the first one, if we take 4 and multiply it by 79.5, we get 318. If we take 7 and multiply it by 99.5, we get 696.5. If we take 6 and multiply that by 119.5, the class midpoint, we get 717. If we take 6 and multiply it by the midpoint of 139.5, we get 837. If we take 18 and multiply it by the midpoint of 159.5, we get 2,871. If we take the frequency of 5 and multiply it by the class midpoint of 179.5, we get 897.5. If we take 1 and multiply it by 199.5, we get 199.5. And if we take 3 and multiply it by 219.5, we get 658.5. Now our next goal is we want to be able to add all these numbers together to get the sum of this column. And this column is taking the frequency and multiplying it by the midpoint. So we're going to add all these numbers up. When we add all these numbers up, we get, so this is the sum of f times x, or the frequency times the midpoint, which gives us 7,195. Now, what are we going to do with these numbers? Well, now we're going to plug it into our formula. So now that we've created this table, okay, we have the sum of the frequencies, which is equal to 50, and then we have the sum of the frequencies times the midpoint, which is 7,195. So, in order to find the mean, and again, you want to show your work here, x bar represents the sample mean of the frequency distribution, and that's equal to the sum of the frequency times the midpoint divided by the sum of the frequencies. Well, we know that the sum of the frequency times the midpoint is 795. We know the sum of the frequencies is 50. So when we divide that, we get 143.9, and that's minutes. So you don't want to forget the units that is associated with the problem. So therefore, the sample mean of this frequency distribution is 143.9 minutes.